Everybody has their own story. In The Danger of a Single Story, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie talks about how it is important to listen to multiple stories from multiple people. If you only hear one person's story, then you begin to make assumptions about everyone, thinking their stories are all similar. Everyone has different opinions and points of view, and it is important to hear many of them to help see the bigger picture. Many people have a generalized stereotypical image of what California is. Some of the stereotypes may be true for some, but not for everyone. This is part of Pete and Lucy Casares' California. These are my grandparents, Pete and Lucinda Casares. They've been married for 54 years and they currently live in Bonaparte, California. They had 2 boys, Eric and Eddie, and they now have 5 grandchildren. My grandpa was born in 1943 in Garfield, New Mexico. His dad was a farmer, and it was hard to feed a family of 8, so he went ahead to California and got a job in a house in Compton. He then moved the rest of the family out there 6 months later. My grandpa was 9 at the time. He says that they packed up a couple of cars and drove out there. He describes them as looking like the family from the Beverly Hillbillies. My grandma was born in 1942 in Cameron, Texas. Like my grandpa, she also lived on a farm. After she finished high school, she moved to Long Beach, California. She was 20 years old. She came to improve herself and to have more opportunities for a better future. At first, she lived with her grandparents for about a month. Then, when she got a job, she moved in with her aunt and uncle. My grandparents met in 1962 when they both worked at Allen Industries. They were married 2 years later and bought a house in Linwood, California. My grandpa was drafted into the Army in 1965 and they spent 2 years in El Paso, Texas. After that, they moved back to Linwood and started their family. In 1975, they bought a house in Bonaparte, California and have lived there ever since.
We were living in the rock. We were living right there in Linwood, which is not too far. Probably about 4 or 5 miles, not even that much. We could hear the shooting and
Fireworks, I know.
the fireworks,
Well,
the shooting,
the
the fires, and we used to. We had good friends at the time where we lived in Willowbrook when I was still with my mom and dad, and we used to come by and see them, but Gonzales Market was there at the time, and during the riots, they had up in the roofs, they had all the people there, the owners go out there with shotguns and stuff to keep the property safe, and it was quite an adventure.
We went came to Bonaparte overnight, stayed overnight in Bonaparte.
Really?
But then we had to go back.
But everything was worked out fine. Then after I got back, I got a job with the Douglas Aircraft, and I worked there for 9 months, and I didn't care for it. And a friend of mine in the Army had told me that the gas company Southern California Gas Company was hiring. So I applied for the gas company, and within 2 weeks I was working with the gas company and that's where I made my career in the gas company. I saw a lot of changes, I went through a couple of riots while I was working there at the gas company. Whatever the riots were after that, one of the times when I was at the gas company, that was the last riot we had.
The LA one?
The LA riot. I was supervisor and in charge of all the facilities in the gas company, and I was in charge of the payment office at Slauson and Crenshaw, and I had to go and retrieve the monies that were in the vault. But the rioters had really destroyed the whole office there, with bullet holes all over the safety glass and stuff. But I took a guy one of our security guards that was armed, and we made it good, fine, and got home back safely.
You guys, so was there a big difference when you first came to California? Because you came and you lived in Linwood, when you first came? So how had it changed, from when you first got there to, how it is now?
Well, when I first moved to Compton, when we came to Compton, it was the hub city. There was no blacks, Mexicans. I think we're probably the only Mexicans, and we're all like complected, so we blended in well.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was going to, I used to go to Walton Junior High School with my son. where the 91 freeway is now in Wilmington. And I had to, I go and take the bus, but I like the sports, and I had to stay late for sports. But every time I walk home, the blacks were already starting to move in the area, so there was a high school, an Enterprise, junior high school. There was a lot of blacks there, and every time I would, walk home, they always had to fight one of them or two of them, or sometimes three at a time, until I finally told my dad, I'm tired of this, and I said, I don't want to go to school anymore. So he did. He sent me to school in New Mexico in the 8th grade. I was there for a year, and I learned I was 14 at the time, so I got to learn how to drive, got my driver's license, and when I came back, I was ready to go to high school in Compton High School, so I started school there. And I was driving, so my dad bought me a brand new 47 Chevy. It cost him $40.
Wow.
And I fixed it up and everything else. So but there was a good change, because that's when the blacks started moving into California. It was really, even my dad, I remember he used to be able to walk to the bank. Every Friday he'd get his check and walk to the bank, because he didn't drive. And even with him, they used to pick on him, they would hit him or something, blacks that I don't know why, because he was whiter than most. But anyway, it was to me it was very racially bad at the time. So then, after a while, we got tired of that, so they finally moved out of Compton and bought a house in Montclair. But
you have to tell them about the train, the red car or red train that used to go to Compton.
I did it. We used to have Well, at the time, that the red car, or trolley car, they used to call it, we used to go up and down LA to Long Beach. And then they did away with it. Now they got a more modern one that is running through there. And that's a big change.
The Metro.
The Metro Rail, they changed it now, which is a big change. And they got the Alameda corridor too now for trucks and stuff that they build now. And it's a lot of changes that are going there.
How was traffic in LA before? Compared to now?
It wasn't bad compared to now. The traffic is...
Everything was also street driving at the time, right?
Yeah. A good comparison is, you go to LA, it takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get LA. The other day I went with my son and my daughter and my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, and it took us 2.5 hours to get home from LA. So the difference, it's quite a difference.
Okay, so you guys live in Buena Park in Orange County now. What made you move here?
We moved here to get a better school for our kids, Eric and Eddie, which is your dad. And what a change. I mean, we really enjoyed the life here.
Most of the life to high school.
We bought a house here. And what has been the change is the property change, how much the values of the property has gone up. For example, our house cost us $38,000 in 1974. 75. And now it's going for $640,000. So what a change in this 40-some years. So property value is bad. And it's good, but it's bad for people that are trying to buy houses now. And there's no way that a person making $25 an hour is going to be able to buy a home now in California, at least anyway.
So, when you first came to Orange County, was it the way it is now with all the houses and stuff, or wasn't there kind of more farmy kind of stuff?
We had a lot of orange orchards. That's the first thing they went. They got rid of the orange orchards and fruit stuff, that were going. And freeway, the 91 freeway wasn't in yet, and that was quite a change. The 105 wasn't in yet. We had to come down Orangethorpe, or South Street, Orangethorpe, Artesia, one of the streets all the way from Buena Park, from Linwood.
Wow.
So there's a lot of difference. The the 91 and the 605 where it meets there was a big void in the middle that it was just they didn't have too much connection between the two, that they would have modernized it.
What's the thing that makes people come to California?
Visit us, of course. No.
Visit us, go to Disneyland, all the attractions.
The attractions, Disneyland, Outbury Farm, and the weather. The weather is always so great in California. That's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I like to stay in California, because the weather. I put up with a lot of stuff but the weather is probably the best.
So, like, have you guys done all the like attraction stuff that people come here to see, like go to Disneyland and stuff like that?
All the attractions.
Yeah.
Now we see it once. That's enough for me.
It's getting to a point that it's so expensive.
Yeah, it's so
to go see
expensive.
Disneyland. When I was working with a gas company, I was an employee. They used to take us every year. We got to go to Disneyland. The company paid for all that. But even for companies, big companies like the gas company, it got so expensive for them to be able to pay for 440,000, 50,000 employees to take them to Disneyland. They just quit doing it. Went to a cheaper. First they went to Knott's, and then they now
Now they go to Universal.
Universal City and stuff like that. So I think we're going to price ourselves out of everything. And again, maybe I'm prejudiced, whatever. I blame this on the Democrats.
Okay, so California is known for like LA and like the movie industry and stuff. Do you guys ever actually even like seen a celebrity or anything like that?
Eddie. I've always seen a lot of pictures of Eddie. My son has been involved with, and he's worked because he works in the movie industry. But as far as he takes pictures with them, and he showed them to us, like Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, and all that, and those people. But as far as that, the only one that I really ever met was Duke Snider. I don't know if you ever met Duke Snider. Duke Snider was one of the famous Dodger baseball players. And I got to meet him, and he was good friends at the time with Gonzalez at the market there, the owner of the market, and he would come by the store and visit.
Oh, that's cool.
This is kind of neat. Oh yeah, it was really a big surprise for us. And now I've always loved the Dodgers. I've always the whole time that I've been here. I've been the Dodger fan. Angels, I can't get used to those.
Oh, they belong to Orange County.
How do you think that you being in California has changed you? Like since how do you think it'd be different like if you grew up in New Mexico or Texas? Do you think your viewpoints would be different at all?
I don't think it would have improved that much in Texas. We lived out in the country, and who knows. But I'm glad we came here, or I came here.
I think that if I'd have stayed there in California and the farm and stuff, because there's no other than farm work, or you go to a different city to go work, we probably wouldn't have lasted there. Or out of the military, I would have maybe made it a career of being in the military. But because there's no work really, unless you have a huge amount of land and you're able to farm it, and which we didn't at the time. So I thought many times of going back there and living there after retirement, but you can't. It just the weather is. You got 3 seasons there, 4 seasons there. I mean, and it just doesn't with my body, my health, and everything else.
Doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, we got the life of Riley here. Now.
Similar to stories from both Kevin Starr's California and Shannon Nolan's Major Problems in California History, my grandparents' families came here with the California dream in mind. They wanted to have more opportunities and a better future for their family, and they hoped California was that place for them. Many think that when they come here, everything will fall into place, like how it does in the movies, but that is not always the case. Many go through struggles to find their success and don't always succeed. In the case of my grandparents, everything has worked out, and they have had a good life in California.
We're not on there anymore. Cut it off.
No, you're still recorded.
Huh?
You're still recording.
Been putting on. I didn't cut that part out.
Picking your nose.